When you talk about the team maybe not understanding, are you talking about they're not understanding the urgency of the situation with regards to the playoffs, or are you talking about them not understanding execution on the
I think not understanding where we're at or having trouble getting their mind around what's important. That's hockey. It's not everything else that goes around hockey. It's the game of hockey. And I don't know if we're understanding the importance of that our mind has to be in the game. It can't be in our vacations.
That was Predators head coach Andrew Burnett. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, the game and the Game Nashville app. Predators fall 9-2 last night, and it was as bad as the score indicates. I was telling D-Mase as we were walking in that I turned the game on, went into the kitchen, finished up dinner. By the time I even had the opportunity to go sit on the couch and watch the game, the Stars had already scored. And then they scored again. And then they scored again. And then they scored again. And I thought, my goodness, we're halfway through the first period and this game is already over. Outshot 18-1 in the first period, which I think is more damning and maybe more unflattering than even the final score would indicate. When you lose by a touchdown, that's a pretty unflattering score in and of itself. Funky day today. We have a short show today because Vanderbilt baseball has opening day today. We will carry that opening day game at 1 p.m. So we are out today at 12:45. Now moving forward, Vanderbilt baseball games will be on 94.9 The Fan, but it is the first day of Vanderbilt baseball, and we are proud partners with Vanderbilt Athletics. We carry game 1 of the season starting at 1 o'clock today. Willy D-Mase, where do you want to start?
Well, they should start by throwing that game in a trash can. That tape, a DVD, whatever you want to call it, MP3, they need to throw it in a trash can. Matter of fact, they need to pack it up and send it somewhere, parts unknown. Matter of fact, just put it in a Hubble telescope and send it up in space somewhere, because that was completely, utterly embarrassing for everybody that was in attendance. Everybody. The fans, 1, the players, 2, the head coach, anybody that had anything to do with that game. It was embarrassing. And listen, not to say they can't overcome that, because you see moments like that in all sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, hockey. You see it across the board. And you try to pinpoint why, you on one hand, you play a close game a few nights before, even though you lose, it's a more competitive game. But then, 2 nights later, you act as if you're playing as if you have no sense of urgency. Like you're not even your body is there, but the competitive nature isn't there. No one can look at that tape, I think. And I feel sorry for UC. It's UC Soros. When you have 18-1 in the first period, eventually something's bound to give. Something's going to happen when you're outshot 18-1. But as a head coach, you can be upset, you can be mad, you can be angry, disappointed, but at the end of the day, you got to throw that in the trash and you got to move on. But you got to let guys know, like, listen, this is one of these games where Barry Trotz comes downstairs now. This is a game where Barry comes downstairs. And Barry needs to have a talk with the team. And not that he's sort of stepping over Coach Bruno, that he has a discussion with Coach Bruno, and then he goes in there and talks to the players. Because that's embarrassing. That is truly embarrassing yesterday. And I know they feel it was embarrassing as a team.
They should feel embarrassed.
Exactly. They should feel embarrassed. So
it was the worst loss at Bridgestone Arena in Predators history.
That was bad.
And they've had too many of those at home this year. That's been something, especially lately. They've now lost 9 out of 12 at home, which is head scratching. But last night, you guys covered it. That was their worst period. That's among the worst periods in franchise history. That's saying something. That's easily the worst period they played this year. They didn't get a single scoring chance in the first period. It was shockingly uncompetitive, and that's the part that they have to deal with now going forward. Is what do you do? Do you take the tape and throw it in the trash can and say, look, we got to forget that happened because we got another enormous game on Saturday afternoon? Or, what do you do? Because Andrew Burnett definitely didn't seem like he had any answers last night. You heard the frustration in his voice. It's been pretty well documented. They won the game on Saturday, but I don't think Andrew Burnett was thrilled at how they played. And then the next day, the Monday at practice, he gave them Super Bowl Sunday off. They came back on Monday, and he got really angry with them at practice and had them do conditioning sprints. The old school kind of like, oh, you don't like to work at practice, we're going to make you run, kind of thing. And then they had a game against the Devils that, they're right in the game. Cody Glass is inches from tying the game on a play late. But overall, during the course of the game, they were outplayed by the Devils. And Andrew Burnett really pulled no punches after the game. He was not happy with how they played. So it's interesting how it snowballed to this in a pretty short period of time coming out of the break. And so it's as if the whole thing that they've built here, the whole plan, the whole nucleus is kind of like you're probably questioning everything you're doing to this point. Like you see Matt Duchene do well last night, that has everybody going, oh man, look at what Duchene's doing. So this is a real tough crossroads here, is because I think, look, we can sit here for 3 hours and say how bad they were last night. That's a given. Like there's no debate over that. The real question is what happens now to try to put the pieces back together and give yourself a chance against the Blues, who are playing great. They're playing the best that they've played all year. They've won 8 out of 10. They win last night against the Oilers, and all of a sudden you're 4 points out.
6-3?
Yeah,
trounced them.
Oh, and they were behind early. They came back and they, but they're looking good. They're feeling great about their game. The Predators are not, and so you got this 5-game road trip coming up, and your season could be completely down the tubes if you can't get it right quickly. So it's what do you do over the next 48 hours? And
that is a very fair point, that while what we saw last night, Tuesday, what we saw in practice on Monday really gives me zero hope or encouragement that you're going to now go on the road against a St. Louis team that's been playing well, and then a handful of West Coast teams that are really good and playing well. That doesn't give me hope that you're all of a sudden just going to turn things around and you're going to look like a different team and you're going to be able to bridge that gap from now until the trade deadline of being able to make the playoffs. But I will say, weird things happen. The theme of the Predators, ever since I got to Nashville, is when they zig, they zag. But it's not just about last night. It's about really last night, what we saw against the Devils, in games that matter the most, that this stretch is the most critical stretch for the Predators to decide where your season is going to go. Are you buyers? Are you sellers? Are you making a push for the trade deadline? There are some tough decisions that are going to have to be made over the next couple of weeks. These are critical games, and they haven't shown up. And I hate doing that. I hate questioning effort. I hate questioning whether or not you're 100% in or you're 100% out. But the team that I've seen the past couple of games doesn't look like a team that's all there. Doesn't look like a team that's 100%. We heard Andrew Burnett coming into the show. Said, we can't be worrying about our vacations. Well, that's really concerning. If that you are now, a week removed from the All-Star break, and you need to be winning these games. Barry Trotz told Jared earlier this week, we need to win 2 out of every 3 games to make a push, to maybe consider even being buyers at the deadline. Well, you've now lost 2 of the last 3. These are critical games. These are important games. Who do you want to be this year? Do you want to make the playoffs? Do you not? And they're still hung up on the vacations? It's concerning. And it's not just about last night. It's about now, where do you go? Now what do you do? Now, does Barry Trotz maybe have a clearer vision of what his approach is going to be at the trade deadline?
This is an interesting thing for me to watch how Andrew Burnett handles the adversity here, because he kind of went old school, right? This didn't seem like a modern day approach. This seemed like sort of an old school approach. Run them at practice, call them out at the media. imply about, we're still on vacation, that whatever is implied there.
Yeah.
So how does the team take that? I think that's why it's a crossroads, right? And you worry because you've built, I think we all would have said, I think almost all of the fans would have said, you really liked the energy around this team for the first half 50 games, right? I mean, they sagged a little bit before I think they were low on fuel before the All-Star break. Now you come out. The record is 1-2. That's not the worst case scenario, right? They have gotten a win, and they were as much as they were critical of themselves against the Devils. They're right in that game. They led going into the third period, right? It was a frustrating loss, but I'd take that over last night. Last night was a whole new level of didn't show up. Like that hasn't happened very often, but you really sensed a lot of frustration from Andrew Brunette, and so this is where you're in that marathon. And, you spring a leak. And this is where, to me, the good teams are able to say, okay, look, it's only one loss. What are we going to do about it today? Let's channel that energy in a positive way. And, you had everybody feeling good about the direction of everything. And now it seems like everything that you've done is come into question, right? Where are the young guys? Young guys weren't in the lineup last night. The three young guys that we've been watching all year, waiting for them to explode. Evangelista, Parson, and Tomasino, none of them are in the lineup last night. So you got people. So everybody's questioning everything, right? Like, hey, why aren't you playing these guys?
I think that's the kind of game that warrants questions.
Oh, absolutely. When you lose 9-2, everything gets questioned, and so that's where can you be the beacon and be the spark of light where everybody's like, okay, we got to get back going in the right direction here, because this is when you really, really get tested there with your leadership and stuff. Because the leaders were just as bad. The leaders were the worst. Last night, the first 2 goals of the game.
Yossi turnover.
Luke Shen, bad turnover, and Luke Shen's been playing, I think, very, very well.
Totally.
He's never going to light up the scoreboard. I think he's been playing well. But he had a bad turnover, then tries to block the shot, and in the process doesn't block it. It shaves off of him, changes the direction. He screens UC Saros, and before everybody even gets settled into the game, it's 1-0.
Yeah.
Then Roman Yossi, and he's the first to admit it after the game, very uncharacteristic turnover. Just gave it away right in the neutral zone. And that led to a layup kind of goal for Duchesne. So it's when that happens, that's when, it's really... It's not like you were saying, well, the young guys just aren't ready to play in a game like that. It was the veterans that set the tone the wrong way.
But is this team, because, you look at it and you say, well, this is one of these games where now, the good teams sort of look at it, regroup, and then press on. And they sort of they start to make their run, whichever way it is. But is this team good enough to look at a game like this and say, okay, now this is the turning point? Are they good enough to even have a turning point?
Well, I think that's one thing that comes into question, right, is they just had a belief. They had a thing going. Hey, yeah, okay, we are good enough. Like everybody was wondering before the year, what do they have? What's it going to be? What's the expectation of it? Well, we really don't have any. We changed a lot of stuff. And then when they started rolling after the slow start, there was this belief that, yeah, okay, they're finding out a way. They have a chance to make the playoffs. They of course found themselves, if you look at the standings, in the playoffs for a couple of months straight. And so you start believing in yourself. But I do think that there is a little sense of, okay, is it catching up to them? Are their weaknesses being exposed? Are they asking too much of Ryan O'Reilly, of Gus Nyquist, who have, I didn't notice them very much last night. Philip Forsberg, played almost superhuman on Saturday. His last couple games haven't been as good. We kind of know what Forsberg is. Nyquist and O'Reilly are kind of the new guys that have, you could argue have overachieved, but now maybe it's catching up to them a little bit. They have a lot of guys that have been asked to play maybe bigger roles than they really are capable of over 82 games. They overachieved for a while. Maybe they're coming back to earth. See, these are the things that start coming in, and that's what you have to battle. And we'll find out what's for real. Over 82 games, you find out what you are, right?
Yeah.
You find out what you – and in the meantime, we haven't seen the blossoming of the young guys. that we saw this glimmer last year in the last 2 months. Mm-hmm. And really, if you go person for person, none of them have taken a big step forward. In fact, you could say some of them have taken a slight step back, right? Or at least haven't they've stood still.
Yeah.
Right? So
which is
all these
just
things
as
happening
bad as
at once.
taking a step back.
Sure. And so, if you're Barry Trotz, you have to kind of say, okay, we're going into this 5-game road trip at the end of it. Mm-hmm. If they're sellers, they're sellers. And right now it's pretty clear. If it keeps going in this direction, they really don't have a choice.
You have to sell. It seems like this team, they had their issues early on, and it seems like they got a hold of those issues, and then they started to do a little bit better. But just like a marathon, you start to find out who the good runners are, who the strong runners are, and who are the runners that can give you a good spurt. But then after that, they start to fall further and further behind. It seems like they are being taken into deeper waters, and they can't swim. That's the way it seems to me. Like in the 6 foot, 7 foot, they were cool. They were treading water. They were good. But then now, as the season continues to go on, where playoff and every game is like playoff implications, which means we're taking you deeper and deeper and deeper. We're starting to find out, or we may be starting to find out, that this team is not equipped to swim in deep waters like some other teams are. And that's okay, because I think we came into the season thinking like, okay, is this a playoff team? Probably not, but if they do get that run going, then maybe they can exceed expectations. Mm-hmm. Well, we saw a portion early on where we thought they were okay. This team they got some young players. They're doing well. This team seems to be hanging around. But now, over the last 5 games, they've given up an average of 4 goals a game. And it seems like the longer this season goes, the weaker and weaker they get. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they're depending heavy on some young players. And then the older players, it's like, man, there's only so much. And I believe they're going to have another spurt here. But is it going to come in enough time where they're putting themselves back in a position to be in the playoffs? I do believe they're going to have another spurt, but it might be just as well too late.
And is it enough?
Exactly.
And I do believe, because this team does that, they zig, they zag, they're good, they're bad, you're encouraged or discouraged, that they will have a spurt. But I am now more than ever more willing to, to make the changes necessary to make your team better in the next 3 to 5 years than to capitalize on one spurt that you hope might be enough to get you to the playoffs. I think we can all acknowledge this team just isn't good enough. The roster just isn't good enough. You don't have enough goal scorers. You don't have a good enough team.
No, but hold on for a second. I'm going to let you finish that. But listen, it's just the comparables is so eerie. Them and the Titans, it is, you can finish now, but I just want to, it is so like wicked, just, you look at both of them and
not good enough.
Not good enough. And we looked at the Titans, their roster's not good enough. Now you look at the Predators, it's like, yeah, they gave us a spurt, but is their roster really good enough?
And it's not. It's really not. And it would have been so fun to make the playoffs this year. So fun, because it was completely refreshed expectations, new coach, new general manager. The team is going in a different direction. And to have some playoff games at Bridgestone Arena, it would have been a blast. It would have been so much fun. But I am willing to forego that and to make some changes at the trade deadline to be able to get capital back, whatever that capital might be, in order to make your team better for the future. I'm worried about the next 3 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, more than I'm worried about these next 10 games, the trade deadline, in this year's playoffs.
I think that's the right way to look at it. And I think, to be fair, I think we've always kind of said that if you made the playoffs, it would be sort of gravy. It'd be bonus.
Yeah, it'd be cherry on top.
But it has to be done with the big picture in mind, and not the end game is to get this team to the playoffs this year. Although, if you're Andrew Burnett, you're in a tough spot, right? So Andrew Burnett, he's in there every game. He wants to put the lineup out there that gives him a best chance to win that night. And so last night, for example, he sits Luke Evangelista. He puts Denis Gurianov in there. Is Denis Gurianov part of the big picture the next 2 or 3 years? It's looking more and more like no. Like they they rightfully took a shot on him as a cheap free agent in the offseason to see if they could give him a new lease on life. A former first-round pick, a guy who's had a 20-goal season. He's flashed brilliance before. He was kind of just cast aside in Dallas. Now he's played, 15 games or so with the Predators, and not much is happening. So it's like, all right, you gave him a chance. Like, these are the things that they're trying to do over the course. It took a couple of flyers on waiver wire guys early on. Did you catch lightning in a bottle with either of those guys? No, one of them is back where he was, Fagemo. The other guy, Foodie, is trying to find his way from Milwaukee, playing pretty well. But it's been a series of things like that. You're kind of looking. Can I find a few pieces that are part of a big time winner in 2 or 3 years as the rest of the young guys improve? Mm-hmm. And you really haven't found that right now. But last night, Andrew Burnett's like, okay, tonight I got to play the Stars. So who gives me the best chance to win?
Yeah.
And you've got some guys in there that are kind of role players that you're asking a lot of. And you've got veteran guys, as we mentioned, with O'Reilly and Nyquist and guys like that. They're going up against a team that's got a lot of depth. And so last night it looked like a team that was exposed for the worst version of itself.
Yeah.
Right? And the best version of the Predators, as we've seen, Andrew Burnett's got them played them good. So almost they're a victim of their own success in some ways. It's a reality check, but look, as you mentioned at the start, anything can happen. If you all of a sudden can come around and win on Saturday, all of a sudden you're like, hey, like it's weird how it can turn. Mm-hmm. You can look at the same group of players and say, these guys are terrible. And then look at that same group of players a week later and say, wow, they got a little something going here. That's kind of life in the salary cap NHL.
Totally. And in an 82-game span, you can never get too high or too low on one game or 3 games, 5 really good games or 5 really bad games. But the difference here, I think, is these 10 to 15 games between the All-Star break and the trade deadline, those are emphasized. Those are highlighted. Those are different than maybe the span of an 82-game schedule. We're going to chat with Chris Mason here in just a little bit. Intrigued to get his thoughts on the game last night, what the Predators do at the trade deadline. But first, want to get into some of your thoughts. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Casey is on the line with a thought on the Predators' loss last night. What's up, Casey?
Hi, y'all. So I've been listening to you guys talk, and I've seen some conversations on Twitter about selling the whole team, blowing things up, nobody's putting the effort. And just from what I've seen in, the short bouts of the games that I've been able to catch in the last couple of weeks, it doesn't seem like we're relying on the young players. It doesn't seem like we're really giving them a shot, because every time it looks like they're doing well, they get sent back down to Milwaukee. Like, take Philip Tomasino, for instance. Dude was averaging, I think, 0.5 points a game, 20 points in 42 games, gets sent down for defensive liabilities, quote, quote. And then all of a sudden we start, giving up 4 goals a game. Last night, the effort was obviously incredibly lackluster. But again, it seems like we're not relying on the young players. It looks like we're punishing them for performing well. We're taking Luke Evangelista out after he just got absolutely robbed on Tuesday. And we're putting in players that are honestly should be full-time AHLers. We're looking for players that can get people out of their seats, as, quoting Barry Trotz. We're looking for players that can score goals, make plays, but we're not giving them the ice time that they need to really gel with each other and learn how each other plays. It just seems like we're saying one thing and then going in an opposite direction of it. And to me, if I was a player playing for a coach that makes decisions like that, I honestly wouldn't have the word I'm looking for, the motivation to play that well.
All fair points, Casey.
Other players.
Thank you for your call, Casey. All fair points there. That's the tough decision that Andrew Burnett has to make, because there's only so long your leash that can be if, 1, you're not playing up to the level of an NHLer, and 2, you got to win games. And that's ultimately Andrew Burnett's job is, yes, you want to develop the young guys, but also he's expected to win hockey games.
What Casey brought to the table is a really it illustrates the tough dilemma that the coach has, because
and he's not alone in feeling that. I've heard and
I think there's a little bit of sense for the consensus I get from a lot of the people that, and look, you read about these guys from the day they're drafted, right? Tomasino, 1st-round pick, Evangelista, kind of shot through the juniors, had an unreal last junior a year in Canada and then came up to Milwaukee and did surprisingly well, and just all of a sudden his stock was rising. So you get excited about these guys, and then they go through the growing pains, and here they are. They haven't blossomed, right? So you're looking for all these positives. Yes, Tomasino has had some good games. He's also had some not so good games. The inconsistency is what's got him sent down. But I get the consensus is, well, if you're gonna give him a chance and you're gonna lose, let's lose with them getting the experience and going through the ups and downs. But the other school of thought is what Barry Trotz is saying is, okay, look, I can't let you fail, and I can't have the point where you're only playing 8 minutes a game. Like Barry Trotz said in a lot of detail with Jared, he gave a great answer on Tomasino. He said, let's send him back down to Milwaukee where he's playing 15, 18 minutes a game. He's playing penalty kill. He's playing as the main man on the power play. And maybe you get your game back to another level rather than play the 8 to 10 minutes. But it's a great question because there is no easy answer. Believe me, Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz would have loved to have had Tomasino, Evangelista, Parsonen as every night players in the top 6, playing big minutes. But when you're just not ready and you're not producing at that level, you can say what you want about the 0.5 points per game. It's not just about the goals and assists, right? There's so many other things going on that determine whether you're being effective out there or not. And it is very hit or miss with all those guys. So I see both sides of the argument for sure, and it is one of the toughest things I think a coach and a GM really have to try to look at every night.
I'm intrigued to get Chris Mason's thoughts on that, his thoughts on the goaltending, what the Predators do at the trade deadline, and of course C-Mace's reaction to the Predators' 9-2 loss last night. We'll catch up with Chris Mason coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Slick backhand try right in front of Chris Mason. And now the quick pass down the middle, breaking in, and a backhand stop by Chris Mason. And Marlowe with a 2-on-1, a 3-on-1, and what a stop by Mason. Chichu right in front, and what a stop on Ekman by Mason.
And goal, number 3, Chris Mason.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase for broadcasting from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. Chris Mason, C-Mase, joins us now. C-Mase, that was ugly. That was ugly, and it was ugly early. Preds outshot 18-1 in the first period. They fall to the Dallas Stars 9-2 last night, and really just kind of compounding that with what we saw on Tuesday night against the New Jersey Devils. Is it fair to be concerned about the fight level in this team, especially coming off of the All-Star break?
I really think so. I think before last night, I wasn't too concerned. It just kind of looked like things just maybe weren't going as planned, and not everybody kind of on the same page, and trying to get that rhythm and intensity back. But last night was that first period. I was honestly in a little bit of disbelief of what was going on, and just the level of, turnovers and lack of details. It was, I feel like that's kind of a rock bottom game. I felt the other ones, there was some things in those games you liked, and you could, maybe be a little more positive about. But I just think that first period just set the tone for just a horrendous game. And that's a classic, look in the mirror type of performance as a team, and just say, what are we going to do here? This is just, I don't like throwing out the word unacceptable, because I think it gets used a lot in sports. And every year, you get, there's going to be tough stretches where things don't go your way, mistakes are going to be made. That's life in sports. It happens every single year to every single team. But an effort like that after, kind of the last few games, and, what they've said and what Bruno said about, being disappointed in the way that they came out of the break and practice. And last game, to me, that was an unacceptable effort.
And I think it's so disheartening that this team, even if they're outmatched, even, traditionally, even if they didn't have the better roster, you weren't going to outwork the Predators. You weren't going to out-tough the Predators. And they've gotten out-tough the last couple of nights. But you brought up a clip from Andrew Brunette last night. And that's what I think was shocking to hear him say. This was Andrew Brunette postgame.
I think not understanding where we're at, or having trouble getting their mind around what's important. That's hockey. It's not everything else that goes around hockey. It's the game of hockey. And I don't know if we're understanding the importance of that. Our mind has to be in the game. It can't be in our vacations.
If you're in the locker room and you hear your coach say that about you and your team, what's your reaction?
If that's the case, and if, I think in this situation, I think you need, as an individual and a leadership group and as a team, you need extreme accountability. So if there are any distractions that, is affecting your play and preparation personally as a player, it's something that, if you're not good enough, obviously you're telling the guys that your performance, you start with yourself and then move out from there, is not acceptable. And the effort that, that I gave and whatever the situation may be, it's got to stop now, and it's got to be everybody, because they don't have a team. We all know this. They don't have a team that, one or two guys can carry. And you have a bad night and win hockey games. They've got a team where they really need everybody. And it's fun to be on a team like that, because I've been on lots of teams like that. Everybody's a huge part of it. But if you have, a portion or a large portion of guys that aren't ready and aren't, playing to a certain standard, you're not going to have a lot of success. And I think this, I always look at these situations too. It's bad. It's, like I said before, I think it is a rock bottom game, but it's also an opportunity to, to cut this off early after the break. There's still enough time, they're still in the race. They have an absolutely, massive game tomorrow. And, to use this terrible, start after the break as something that can be a big motivating factor to really cut this off now before it, it bleeds into the rest of the year. And I don't think it was a slow bleed. It was almost like a couple bad performances, and they got called out at practice, and then this bombshell of a game. So, it could be a positive thing. And I definitely, I expect this team to come out with fireworks against the Blues. If they don't, then, we're going to have another conversation next week.
Yeah, you're right about that, C-Mace. We're talking with Chris Mason, discussing that debacle last night. Now, listening to Coach Bruno, it appears to me what he's saying in so many words. It's, some guys are, looking at it from the standpoint of, what hockey affords me to do, and instead of looking at it as what can I do for hockey. Not that guys are doing that, but it does come off to, if you're listening to Coach Bruno, it does come off like that. Like guys are worrying about other things where they need to be worried about hockey and hockey only. And we heard Barry say this. Listen, I don't want guys to come here to want to retire. I want guys to come here to win the game, to win games and win championships. That's what I want. So in looking at that game last night as a former player, because I told Willie and Caroline, this is a game almost like you got to flush it. You got to take the tape and you got to sit it somewhere else. Or do you, from your experience, C-Mace, do you use this as a teaching moment? Because there are a lot of bad things within that tape.
Yeah, I think they've had some games. I think the ones maybe before you're like, all right, guys, just let's forget it. We have, the Stars coming up. We got to come out with everything there. And then, and then obviously that was probably the talk. And then they have the worst game of the season against the Stars. I think this is one where you have to hold this one, and you have to, you take it home with you, and you let it, you have that feeling. It's just the worst feeling in the world, in sports, is when you have a game like that. And, you were one of the guys, and I've been there, believe me, we all have, right? Anyone that's played sports has been part of a game like that. And to really use that as motivation to never let that happen again. And this is the best time of year for a team that's like the Predators, that had really, I think, exceeded expectations. I think sometimes maybe during a break, and this could have happened, like, hey, we're doing pretty good. Nobody expected us to be where we are. We're in the playoff race. We're in the wild card. Obviously they're not anymore, but we're in a wild card spot. We got 30 games left after the break. We just, if we keep doing our thing, we're going to get in the playoffs. Well, everybody that has ever played in these situations, including the guys on the team, know very well that it gets harder. The teams you're playing the Dallas Stars. They want to win the Central Division. They want to win a Stanley Cup. There's so many teams fighting for that spot. There's very few teams in the West that are out. New Jersey comes in. They're out of a playoff spot. This is a team that put up 100 and some odd points last year, one of the best teams in the league, and they're sitting outside of a playoff spot. You got to be ready. You can't have your B game. You can't have your C game. You can't have 5-6 guys take a night off. And so that's what makes this more disappointing. So I think for me, when I played and had one of those games, I want to hold on to that feeling for longer than I normally would, just because it was so bad. But then, as a group, it can be something that galvanizes you, when you have a rock bottom game like that, where you're in the room and everyone, you look around and no one played well. Some guys, you work hard, but you're all part of it. You all take that together. But you can also do something about it. So I think it's going to tell me a lot about, this group and the situation they're in right now, and how they come out and play against St. Louis.
Yeah, you made a good point there, Mace. It was the veterans and the leaders that struggled a lot last night, along with everybody else. So, they're the ones that everybody looks to set the example. And so I thought it started last night. I heard interviews with Yossi and McDonough last night. They both took full accountability. They didn't pull any punches. Roman Yossi said, I was awful in the first period, is basically what he said. So I think that's something to watch for. What about the goalies, Mace? That's your department. I think to a man, everybody said they hung out UC Saros to dry. That was one of those kind of games. And then Kevin Lankinen, kind of like the relief pitcher, who's in there to mop up, he had to just sort of take one for the team. He was just getting pelted all over the place, and he took his lumps too. So what do they do tomorrow?
That's a good question. I would expect they go back with Saros. Again, I think you start to see flashes of him coming around, and then, you have a game like that. It's a tough game. Obviously, they didn't get a lot of help, but we've seen that before where he's had, superhuman efforts in a game, maybe just like that, where he may give up, one or two or none. It's kind of one of those things where I think he's still, there's still some fragility, I think, in his performances. And, Lankinen gets put in a tough situation. They're getting bombarded. He goes in the second period. It just snowballed. It was just kind of one of those games for the goalies. But I'll be very interested to see. I would expect Saros. I wouldn't be surprised if Lankinen went. They got a big road trip coming up here, but that game against St. Louis is massive. They're sitting, ahead, and they've got a game in hand, and the biggest game of the year. It is the biggest game of the year. Every single game is, and that's why that effort against Dallas was so disappointing. And to look forward here to St. Louis, I mean, it's going to be a tough call because I think Bruno's going to be more, worried about the forward and defense line than he puts out. But I might expect Juice to go back, but that's just me speculating.
This is another tough one for you to answer, Mace, but because I don't know if anybody really knows the answer. But I'm just curious. I think we've all kind of wondered with all of the talk around Saros, and hey, and Barry Trotz has been pretty open. He's been very open with UC Saros, right, which is a good thing. That's how Barry Trotz rolls. But I just do wonder how Saros is able to process all of this and be able to put it aside to be able to be at his best. Because it's easy to say, well, look, UC Saros, stat-wise, these aren't juice numbers that we're used to here. And and it's easy to kind of connect the dots and say, well, is one affecting the other?
Yeah, I definitely, I think there's got to be a level of that. I think no matter what players, and D-Mase can tell you too, is in those situations, even when guys say, you know what, I'm not going to talk about my negotiation until after the season, all those different types of things, and they act like it's all put aside, and the rumors are out there. They're not immune to that. Nobody is. And, you think about that stuff. It's your livelihood. It's your life. It's, you've, developed roots in a certain place, and it's the unknown. And I think sometimes, that can, on different stages of, the year, can either be a motivating factor or something that, is kind of just hanging there and putting some added stress, on you and affecting your play. And I don't think anybody's immune to it. So I don't personally know that it's affecting Saros, but it's, there's a good possibility that, that's something that, I know for a fact players think about that kind of stuff, and it's not always positive. Sometimes it is, but, sometimes it can be distracting.
C-Mase, Chris Mason, appreciate your time and thanks for stopping by. Safe travels to St. Louis and to the West Coast, and we'll chat with you next week.
All right. Well, hopefully we got better stuff to chat about next week, but that's the life of sports. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Appreciate it, C-Mase. All right, we will do an earlier edition of Ask D-Mase today since it's a little bit of a weird day. Vandy baseball will start on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game at 12:45 p.m. All of your pregame coverage at 12:45. First pitch is at 1 o'clock. Since it is officially Vandy baseball season on 102.5 The Game, coverage is also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com. But coming up next, wanted to get into your thoughts and reaction into the game last night. And not even just the game, but where the Preds go next. And we'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Let's talk F&M Bank. We take it to the bank Fridays normally at 1:45, but we're heading for the Vandy boys over at the Hawk today, so we won't have that. But let me tell you, F&M Bank has been awesome for us. They're doing such great work in their communities, and that's really what they want to be. Banking made easy on purpose, and the bank that means more to you, the customer, because the decisions are being made locally. They care about your business. They've got 20 locations in our listening area on up into Hopkinsville, Kentucky, over in Clarksville, and, of course, right downtown on West End Avenue in Nashville, right in your community in Mount Juliet, in Greenbrier. So wherever you're listening, they've got you. Just find their nearest location, and they'll help you out. It's myfmbank.com. That's myfmbank.com. Banking made easy on purpose. Whether you're, just got married and trying to get the finances together with your new spouse, or you own your own business, or you're later in life and you're making those choices for retirement. They can help you with all those things. It's called banking made easy on purpose. That's the philosophy. myfmbank.com. Member FDIC.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Tune in to 93.3 Classic Hits tomorrow as MTSU basketball takes on UTEP at home. Pre-game at 4:30 p.m., tip-off at 5, with coverage also available on 93.3 Classic Hits app and at 93.3classichits.com. We'll get into an early edition of Ask D-Mase. We'll get into that at the top of the hour, so get those questions in for D-Mase. But for now, we're getting your reaction to the Predators' 9-2 loss last night and where the Preds go from here as they head out on a road trip to take on the St. Louis Blues tomorrow night. Mike is on the line. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What's up, Mike?
Hey, guys. So I, for the first time in many years, am extremely concerned about our lack of defense. I feel like we've been crying and crying to try to find that, like, perennial goal scorer, and we've always had a stalwart defense, but this is at the time where I've just realized, like, I mean, again, this season's had its rough patches itself, but this game exposed the lack of defense that we had. I don't know, in particular, because you're going to go to your stars first, like, Yossi's play on the defensive end, I know he's out there, it seems like, albeit sometimes it feels like by himself, but I don't know if it's the style change or if it's his line mates that he's playing with or something. But like, there just doesn't seem like there's cohesion every single night. Sometimes the defense, it just seems like we're turning the puck over way too much, and I just don't know if, again, I mentioned in the morning show that I feel like we don't have the guys that Andrew Brunette needs to run his system properly. We have a whole lot of guys that are working with Coach Hines. But in particular, is Yossi's style, is he trying too hard to change who he is? I know he's just not, he wants that offensive style going forward, but Willy, he just looks like he sometimes doesn't know exactly what he wants to do, or he's trying too hard out there.
Thanks for your call, Mike. Great call.
I think last night is the exception. I didn't think Yossi played very well. He was the first to say he didn't play very well. If you look at his numbers, and I've talked about this a lot, he is playing differently, but he's playing extremely elite still. If you look the last couple of games, they've tried to spark Tyson Barrie. They put Barrie with Yossi. Barrie is also offensive-minded and a little bit of a defensive liability. If you're being fair, this is the scouting report on him. This is not mine. It's really what he's been throughout his career. And so when Yossi has been with McDonough and with Fabro, I think the numbers are there. I don't think is Roman Yossi the best defensive defenseman in the league? No, but he's good. And when you have the puck and you're driving offense, that's a good defense. Right? The other team can't score if you're driving offense. So the numbers are there for Yossi. He's the least of their problems. I think what's happened here recently, I think Ryan McDonough has had a very, very good year, a bounce-back year for him, very effective. Jeremy Lauzon, I think if you look statistically, his numbers have really dropped off. I thought he is having a career year, but his last 5 to 7 games, I think he's looked a little bit more of the I'm taking too many penalties to play the aggressive style I want to play. He's the leader in hits in the NHL. That's been made very public, right? And that's a good thing. But if there's a fine line of being too physical, taking yourself out of a play, or being too aggressive and putting your team on the penalty kill, which they don't have a great penalty kill right now. That's been a problem, right? If you look at his analytics, they've dipped a lot. He's in a bit of a slump. They need a bounce back from Lauzon because otherwise he's been a really good guy who's taken a big step forward. I think Luke Schenn has, again, everybody was awful last night. Schenn has been playing better for what they're asking him to do. Is he a perfect fit for Brunette's system? Maybe not, right? I think that's a fair point. Brunette still would like to have a quicker, faster team overall, and that wasn't going to happen overnight in his first year, right? It's going to take some time to shape the roster the way he really wants to play, which is up in your face, get the puck, drive the puck, play that faster system, which we've seen the teams that he has been a part of before, the Devils, the Panthers, that's how they play. So that's a fair criticism. And then you've got the guys like Fabro and Carrier who are in contract years, and it's kind of the same thing I would think as it is with Saros. Like, what's my future here? They're playing with that on the line. Sometimes guys can drive through. I think Carrier's had a pretty good year overall. He actually was probably the best of all the defensemen last night.
But he's one of those that if you get an offer at the deadline, take it.
an offer, yes. You have to decide, is he more valuable to keep, or is what you're getting in return something you can't turn down? Like if it's just a 5th-round pick or something, I think you could argue, well, maybe I'll just keep him. Because the caller points out they don't have a big crop of defense prospects coming up. And so that is something to look for. So what do you do in the meantime? Right? Spencer Stastny, I think, is the one defense prospect that I think they'd really like to get up in there that will be on the team next year.
Right.
Other than that, this is a franchise that you go down the road. Weber, Ellis, Ekholm, Yossi, they've had great defensemen coming through the pipe. They're a little low in that department right now. So it's a question of where are they today and where are they 2 or 3 years from now. It's good. It's a good thing to point out because D-Mase asked me that's almost the same exact question during the break. What's going on with the defense, right? Because you want to give your goalie a chance to succeed. The defense hasn't been good the last couple games for sure.
And we have a bunch of thoughts in the text line about, what happened to the Predators that are a very traditional, tough and defensive-minded team? I haven't seen that.
Right, but they're trying to get out of that. Isn't that what everybody wanted? They want to play more up tight. But this is This is what they're trying to get out of. It's like we talk about with the double-edged sword of the Titans. You want to modernize your offense, but you're like, but what about Derrick Henry? He's so great. They run the ball with Derrick Henry. That's what they are.
I think the idea is, we didn't want to sacrifice defense.
Right. Defense wins championships, right?
We didn't want to sacrifice that for the offense, but not only are you not getting great defense, you're also not really getting great offense either. I think that a lot of Predators fans would be willing to look past maybe the defense taking a step back if you were scoring goals, but you're struggling to do that as well. All right, coming up next, we'll get into a little bit of Ask D-Mase, so get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, tune into 94.9 The Fan tomorrow night as Vanderbilt men's basketball takes on Tennessee on the road. Pre-game at 4:30 p.m., tip-off at 5, with coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. We are broadcasting from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. A little bit of a funky show today because today is Vanderbilt baseball opening day. So you can tune in today on 1025 and 1063 The Game as Vandy takes on FAU at Hawkins Field with pregame beginning at 12:45, first pitch at 1 o'clock. You can also find coverage on the 1025 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com. So you can hear that right here starting at 12:45 on 1025 The Game. Now, all future Vanderbilt baseball games will be on 94.9 The Fan, but it's opening day. So they're on 1025 The Game today. So since we have a funky show today, early Ask D-Mase.
Yes.
So get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your calls. We'll take your texts. Any questions that you might have for D-Mase. JD in Nashville texts in, says, D-Mase, if you played hockey, what position would you play and why?
Man. I'd be a forward. I'd be a scorer.
I can see D-Mase on the wing.
Yeah, I could.
Speedy winger.
Yeah, I don't have to
with
control,
an edge to him.
I don't have to control
What's
the puck.
D-Mase's NHL comp?
Oh, that's a good one.
Ooh.
I see a speedy winger with an edge. Like, if you want to, you want to try to get physical in the corner, I got something back for you. I'll push back a little bit.
A little 85 energy.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a little. Let's see. I'm gonna say a little bigger version, like same kind of engine as a Victor Arvidsson, but a little bigger.
Okay.
A little bigger, a little stronger. I'm trying to think of some other guys like that. That's a good question. I like that.
I take that.
Yeah. Get D-Mase out on the power play. Get him the puck, or else you might hear from it.
Yeah, give me the puck.
He's gonna have a talk. I'm open, man.
Hey, I better be on the power play. I better be on the power play. I tell you that.
Get me in there. Get me the rock.
Yelling in the coach's ear.
Give me the puck, man. Give me the puck.
All I do is score. Another texter texts in and says, D-Mase, it looks like T. Higgins could be tagged and traded. When you were a player, would you play on the franchise tag?
Ooh, good one.
If I was a player now? Yeah, I mean, listen.
Is there a stigma attached to playing on the tag?
I think sometimes there can be, but this is how, I sort of entered into all of that contract talk. I let my play speak for itself. I didn't, say I needed this or I wanted that or make it public. No, I pay somebody to do all of that stuff. But my play is going to dictate it. But I am going to have consistent talks with my agent. Like, no, I don't like that deal. No, So would I play under the franchise tag? Yeah, I would. In hopes that I get a bigger deal. Because listen, I had two working parents, and this is why I always go back when in regards to money and contracts and stuff like that. I had two working parents. I saw what they had to do, and we had there were 7 children, and they busted their tails, and they earned every dollar. So I looked at that, and that's how I approached, contracts. I want to earn my money. If I've earned my money, you give me the money that I've earned. But if you want to tag me, that $20-something million I never had. I understand, what players get into now, the back and forth and all this other stuff. But when I played, I was extremely blessed to be able to play a game that I enjoyed, that I loved, and you were paying me for it. You were paying me 7 figures for it. Wow. Just don't lowball me.
Yeah.
Don't lowball me. But if you want to put me under the tag in hopes to get another deal done, well, that's $20-something million that I'm playing on that season that I never had before,
and that you will have in your pocket.
Exactly, and I will have in my pocket. So I come from a different cloth. It's like, okay, give me the $20-something million. I'm not too proud to take $20-something million, but let's work on a bigger deal. Let's work on a long-term deal because I want to be here. But I'm not gonna say, no, I'm not. No. Now I'm gonna push it. But when it comes down to it, I'm playing football. So Day one, when it starts, I'm there. And hopefully we can work on something. But if we don't work on nothing, my play would dictate I just go somewhere else. That's the way I approached all of it. But I understand how the young men and young women approach their contracts nowadays because it's a lot different now than it was then.
I've got one follow-up to JD's question. I think that was a really good one about the hockey. I've thought about this because I never played hockey. And I don't know how I would have rolled in that game. But, like, the whole thing about if somebody does something on the ice, you can do something about it. Like, you can challenge a guy to a fight. Or at the very least, get in his face. You can push him. You can shove him. You can, it doesn't have to be a full-on fist fight. It could get to that. You have to be prepared for it. But, in football, you have to control. You can talk. You can get emotional. But you can't really escalate it to that point. Like there was, we talked about the game in Texas where the Texas guys were mad and the coach says, well, we would never do like anything like that. In hockey, if you did something like that, if you showed up the other team, you have to be prepared to fight. So do you think you would have liked that kind of aspect of it?
Yep, because
like you're going to push me, I'm going to push you back, and we might go.
Because a part of my workout regimen in the off season would be boxing. Would be boxing. Okay. It would be. It would be boxing on ice. I'll find somewhere I can box on ice. So, because I'm going to be going against 6'5", 6'4" guys. So, I ain't all about that going in a circle and then wait. No, I'm coming right at you right now. You may get a hit on me, but boy, oh boy, I'm going to get me a few. And I'm coming with uppercuts. I'm not coming with these wild punches. I'm coming with a big fella. You got to get underneath him. You can't sit there and be jostling and grabbing at it because his arm's length is more than mine. He's 6'5". I'm 5'11". Me trying to hold his jersey and punch. Nah, that's not working. Let me get underneath this body and then, kind of give him a couple. Why they never hit belly shots, man? Hit somebody in the gut. And you hit him in the gut, he comes down. He comes down to your level.
That's how you bring down a 325-pound left tackle.
Willie, explain to me that.
Right in the soft belly.
Like, why is it a written rule that you only go for the face?
Well,
I'm not talking about hitting below the waist.
I think they have, they have a rib protector on sometimes, so it may not be direct flesh that you're getting there when you go to the body.
But if he hit it a good time,
some do. The balance of being on skates and one of your hands is tied up may affect it some, but it's interesting observation.
Exactly,
Because sometimes they got helmets on. You're trying to punch a guy in the head, but you're hitting his helmet partially at least.
I never understand why they do that in hockey, even in football.
Yeah.
Like when you punch someone in the helmet, you are doing more harm to yourself than you are even slightly to them. You're going to break your hand. I've never understood it.
So we learned that D-Mase would not be afraid to drop the gloves and go. So now we're adding. See, that separates from the Victor Arvidsson. Jared texted in and said, "What about Alex DeBrincat?" We saw Alex DeBrincat get in a fight with Roman Josi, and Alex DeBrincat, we learned he's not. He's a goal scorer. He's a speedy winger that matches up with D-Mase, but he can fight too. So maybe Jared's got something there.
Tanner Jeannot.
Tanner Jeannot's a big dude.
Fight just to fight.
Yeah.
it seemed like at times.
Because if
that's a guy when he walks in, you're like, I'm not messing with that guy.
If you're willing to get into it with some bigger guys, then even though listen, I am not saying that I would win the fights because I probably more than likely I don't know I would lose some of them, but they know like okay that little dude ain't backing down. So,
right, and that's part of what happens on the ice is you earn that respect. You're like, I've got to think twice before I take liberties here. If I'm going to hit this guy, he might come back at me and challenge me. That's what happens on the ice. And you could some people love it, some people hate it, but it's different. That's what's distinctive about hockey. You just can't do that. Like, imagine if you could fight a defensive back.
Oh man, we'd be fighting all day. But I am calculated though because if it's a big dude, I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna forget. So you might have did something to me in the first period. I might get you in the third period where you least expect it. And then it's on. Then everybody's saying, well, why is he fighting? Well, rewind the tape in the first period. He got me. He got me good. And I'm going to get you. Don't worry about it.
It reminds me, so there was a viral tweet that was kind of making fun of different positions in football and how they tweet. It says, the typical quarterback tweet, love my teammates, God is good. Running back tweet, keep grinding. Tight end tweet, derp. Wide receiver tweet, the enemy speaks kindly and holds a knife. Just the most
Yeah, pretty much so. Yes.
Never, ever let anything go. You did that to me 15 years ago? I don't care. I'm still mad about it. All right, 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Getting your calls and texts and questions in for D-Mase. Sonny texts in, says, if a wide receiver runs wide open on a play, but the quarterback doesn't seem to look his way because the play was designed to go to another player or a different side of the ball, do coordinators take note of that and look to call on that player later in the game?
I think some coordinators do, but you gotta look at it as it's almost like an alert. It's we're gonna run this play again, but alert the backside post because that safety may just be looking at the front side corner route or the front side go. He was wide open, but he may not be. That doesn't mean he's going to be completely wide open the next time we run it, but just alert. Look to that backside real quick, and then if it's open, then throw it. But if not, then you still got your front side. That's what coordinators and quarterbacks, if they see a receiver open, wide open on a play that wasn't designed to hit the backside, what they do is, okay, you were open. All right, next time we run this play, just alert it. Not to say that we're going to you, but if they run the same defense and that safety starts to peek and look to the front side, quarterback, be alert because that backside may be open. And some quarterbacks even bait the guy into doing it. He looks that way, especially if they're playing three high, which is cover three. He had looked at safety to the front side, hoping that he make the same mistake again. And the minute he take a step there, and then the quarterback, he know exactly where he's going. So, yeah, we do talk about that stuff.
John and Burns, grits or hash brown casserole?
It's an important
question. Grits. Hash brown casserole. I don't think I ever had a hash brown casserole.
Oh, D-Mase, you're missing out.
Yeah, it's grits all day, every day, man. And I'm talking
what's
old school grits.
Is there cheese in there or something? Like, I love good hash browns.
Shredded hash browns, obviously. In a giant pan, and you put it in the oven, and you put some cheese in there, and then you mix it with a little bit of something else, some pepper, whatever you like, and you just put it in the oven, man. It's delicious.
Hash brown casserole, I never had one again, but I'm a grits guy, man. Old school grits. It takes a minute to cook. It takes more than a minute or 8 minutes to cook.
So not the instant
Quaker grits. No, we ain't talking about the instant grits.
Not your Waffle House grits where they just slap some cheese on top. They don't, not that way.
We talk about the Danny DeVito grits when he was like, so you're telling me that it took you 5 minutes to make those grits. And everybody know, what was the movie? Where he was getting his nephews out of jail.
My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, My Cousin Vinny.
Joe Pesci.
Yeah,
it's funny, I was just watching that the other day. I saw that scene. He and Marissa Tomei, one of my favorites.
Any respectable grit maker knows
they get to the old diner, right, and it says breakfast. It doesn't tell you what. It just says breakfast, $3 or whatever it is. And the cook kind of looks at him sideways. He's like, grits? The guy's like, you haven't had any grits? Like,
yeah, like, man, come on, it takes more than that.
Vinny had to be educated on the grits.
With the fresh shaved white cheddar on top.
Man, ain't nothing like some grits. Salt and pepper, sugar, whichever way you want to go.
I can't do sugar and grits. That gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Some people do sugar and grits.
My mom does sugar and grits.
Some people do salt and pepper,
I'm a savory grit person myself.
Yeah. I did. I
won't
would
yuck
do
anyone's
both.
yum.
I would do both. When I was younger,
at the same time?
when I was younger, I did sugar.
Okay.
Because I'm a kid and want sugar.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I would salt and pepper with the toast, and
best.
Sunny side up,
egg. Oh, that's nasty.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
That's great.
No.
Yes.
No.
D-Mase, we're going to have a breakfast conversation.
Yes, we need that because when the yellow part is, that makes me throw
I'll take
up.
all three of y'all out to breakfast and we'll have a good conversation, all right?
And then some people dip their toast in it, which is even more gross.
Who does that? Unbelievable.
Some people do dip their toast into
the yolk. Yeah,
the yolk. See, there you go. She's a
sarcastic.
yolk
I do that.
dipper.
Yeah.
Both of y'all are.
It's delicious.
Oh, man, we have some people battling for hash brown casserole right now. Robbie
You
Stanley
gotta
leading
knock
the
that.
charge.
Come on, D-Mase. Hash
No,
brown
grits.
casserole.
Grits. Y'all in the South, grits, man. Come on.
I like them both, but come on, give it a try.
I didn't say I wouldn't give it a try. I just said I hadn't had it. But if you're asking me to pick one of the two, I'm picking grits all day, every day.
All right, one texter texts in and asks D-Mase, what do you think is the biggest difference between a first-round receiver and later-round receivers?
What's the difference? The difference is a lot of times, it's not always about talent. It's not. Sometimes you may run a faster time. The measurables may be different. Because, you see just as many, second, third, fourth, fifth rounders to have success and go into 2 and 3 contracts that you do first round draft pick receivers. So I think a lot of it has to do, it's not even necessarily the production in college, because we see some guys that have been highly productive in college and they still don't get drafted in the first round. Nowadays, I think it's all about measurables, speed, height, weight. Did you catch a lot of balls? Yeah, maybe. Well, what program did you play in? And then they look at that, and then the competition you went against. But, to me, there's one essential thing or a few essential things that you got to have to play this position or to get drafted in the first round. Speed is a factor. You got to have some speed. But I think you got to have this willingness in you to play the game at a certain level, like every play. Like you got to have that mentality in you. It's a go-get mentality, not a passive mentality. That's why when I see a wide receiver that's passive, that don't like being touched, I'm not drafting him, because in this league you're gonna get worked over a few times. And if they find out that you don't like it, you know what they're going to keep on doing? Working you over. They're going to keep on pressing you. So when I break it down tape, I want to see guys that have went against press coverage, that have went against double team coverage, that had to play multiple positions on the field, meaning the inside, the outside, whatnot. If he is strictly an outside guy, then not to say he's not a first rounder, but I'm looking at him like, okay, can I shift you an inside if I need to shift you an inside? If you are strictly, an outside guy and I can't put you inside, you can't go over the middle. Even in today's game, I can't draft you, because this game now is so multiple. You got to be able to do more than just one thing. And you and I, we all discussed that the other day about a wide receiver or a defensive back. You have to be multiple in what you do. Hence, that's why I love Marvin Harrison Jr. so much. He can play both inside and outside. It seems like
He's so good.
Yeah. It seems like he has an attitude about him that he wants to go get it no matter what, and he go about his game and don't say much. He doesn't bring all of that extra stuff toward. Not to say Adunze and these other guys are Neighbors. I think Neighbors is a dog too. I really do. But I've watched more of Marvin Harrison than any one of these other guys. So it's just, when I turn on the tape, I got to see this level of competitiveness in you. You may not catch 60 balls in a college season, but if I see that competitiveness in you, that willingness to go over the middle, make those tough catches, then okay, this is something we can work with. You may not be a first rounder, but I will draft you because I know you have that one thing in you, or that few things in you that I can't teach you.
I think we've seen it probably in recent drafts. Tank Dell, one of them, not first round talent, but has the kind of the fight in him.
Yeah, and that's why I like Tank Dell so much. That's why the kid, I don't know why, Zay Flowers. Watch out for that kid. That's all I'm saying, because he has, not only is he a damn good player, but he got an attitude about him that he's never gonna back down. He reminds me of like Steve Smith. Like, he never wants to back down. Like, he's gonna keep on coming, and doesn't matter. Like, you may knock him down a few times, he's gonna get right back up. Tank Dell, I think, is the same way. I'm not saying any disparaging things about the other wide receivers. I'm just saying those two guys in particular, those are dogs, and you want a few of those guys on your team.
People are mad at you, D-Mase.
Why is that?
Robbie Stanley included.
The grits.
Robbie Stanley says, stop talking on the radio and go get hash brown casserole. Nothing else needs to be done until this is accomplished.
So Robbie's taking grits over hash brown casserole.
He's taking hash brown casserole over
he's
grits.
making a strong push for the
Okay.
other
For
one.
hash brown
Even
casserole.
Chase has waited and said hash brown casserole.
I'm not sitting here saying like yuck hash brown casserole.
It's
I'm just
so good.
saying like if you're at the question was
Yeah.
hash brown casserole or grits. I said grits. I ain't saying that hash brown casserole isn't good. I just said I'm a grits person, man. Y'all, and again, I will say this, especially Chase McCabe, the suit. You were born in the South, and how dare you take hash brown casseroles over grits?
I thought hash brown casserole is a Southern thing.
It
It
may
is.
be, but
Yeah.
grits is even Southerner. Southerner.
More Southern, yeah, I got it. Well, let me just put it this way, D-Mase. My uncle makes hash brown casserole twice a year just for celebration purposes. Thanksgiving and Christmas. Thanksgiving, it's not a dish. I actually recommend.
It's not a dish, it's a way of life.
Yeah, it's a way of life. So I ask him to bring it. So yeah, I would
But
say
you know what is a way of life? Grits every day.
2:30 in the morning at Waffle House, sure.
No, those ain't real grits. I'm talking about the real
Waffle
grits.
House gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It's awesome.
That place scares me.
That is South at its finest.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's, when you find a hair in your food, nothing like some good
Hey, I love-
down south home cooking. And they gotta kind of mean to you a little bit, and you leave smelling like it. Nothing.
Oh my goodness.
Really nothing better. All right, we have a short show today because Vanderbilt baseball is back in action. Pre-game coverage starting at 12:45 p.m. First pitch at 1 o'clock against FAU. So we will take it to the bank early this week, and we will do that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
All right, everybody. We got the the NBA All-Star Game coming up this weekend. And I know you want to make your bets or your prop bets. And you can do that with our partners in sports. And I've been telling you this for the last few months. And they have this promotion that is available to our listeners here in Tennessee. Our new customers available. All right. It's the No Danger First Wager. When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First Wager. When you place your first bet on Zen Sports, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if it loses up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports has launched their VIP program for the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you may qualify, then listen up, okay? The VIP program is by invite only, so if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sports book will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports. So what are you waiting for, bettors? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. Zen Sports, betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee. If you set out to lose weight in 2024, chances are it may not be your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But listen, at Cool Springs MD, they understand the frustration of this cycle. That's why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program, led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge, addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood tests, supplements, counseling, and more. Dr. Lodge and his team don't believe in fad diets or generic plans. Instead, They offer a personalized program designed to help you achieve your goals faster and easier. Now is the time to break free from the cycle of failed resolutions. Trust an experienced doctor in weight management to help you reach your goals. Dr. Jeffrey Lodge in Cool Springs, MD. Call now, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit their website at coolspringsmd.com. Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
And you can take that to the bank.
Here comes the money, 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 money.
It is now time to take it to the bank with F&M Bank. At F&M Bank, their mission is to make lives better by making banking easier. Less worry, more living. F&M Bank. So visit one of their 20 locations throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky or online at myfmbank.com. Before we take it to the bank this week, let's do a recap of how we did last week. Nick Frazier, how'd we do?
This is an interesting standings right now. We have Caroline at 136 and then a battle for second place. You ready? Derek Mason, 113. It's the return of Willy. 110, Willy Donick.
Wow.
Only
Willy.
trailing by
Come
3.
from behind.
All right. I got to step it up. I got to step my game up.
As for myself, way back, 72.
That's all right.
But we have here for last week, Caroline took first name, Wade Taylor, is that correct?
Wade Taylor.
With Texas A&M. 25 points. You had 15. So ka-ching, ka-ching.
Ka-chang, ka-chang.
Sorry, I'm struggling back here. The other one we have is Christian McCaffrey to get 2 touchdowns.
That did not happen.
Only one, all right?
If only I would have said Juwan Jennings. That was such an obvious one.
I put all that into consideration, by the way. It's okay. Other one we have is light blue Gatorade.
It was purple.
Did not happen.
It was purple.
As for that, Caroline got a 8 I have here on the score line. Other one we have here is Willy with Patrick Mahomes to have 1 interception. That did happen. Ka-ching, ka-ching. We have Christian McCaffrey to get a touchdown. Ka-ching, ka-ching. 80 yards rushing. 100 yards rushing did not happen. He had 80.
80.
And then 49ers to win.
I needed one more possession. I needed that one more possession. He might have gotten it.
Yeah. As for D-Mase, he had the Clippers to win by more than 15 or more points against the Pistons. That did not happen. They won by 6.
Damn it.
Let's see. Brandon Ayuk to get a touchdown did not happen. And Debo Samuel to get 5 catches. He had 3. Only thing that hit for you, Brock Purdy, 220 yards passing. There's your positive. As for myself, it did not go well for me at all. Kelsey to get 2 touchdowns and the MVP did not happen. But I did take the Chiefs to win. So there we go.
Cha-ching.
So 2 points for Derek and I both. As for that, we will leave it with Caroline to start it all off.
All right, I'm going to stick with college hoops this weekend. Tennessee hosting Vanderbilt this weekend. I am sorry, Willie. I'm going to take at least 3 Tennessee Volunteers to have double-digit points. Also, Kentucky on the road to the jungle. I think it's the hardest place to play in the SEC, so I'm going to take Auburn to beat Kentucky. I don't know what the spread is. They don't release the spread until Saturday.
I will tell you that on KenPom,
okay,
which usually is pretty close to where the line is, they have Auburn by 10.
10?
Yes, 10.
Ooh.
So do you have the guts to take them? Let's say minus. Let's say minus 7.5. Would you take it?
I'll take 7.5.
Okay.
I'm going to take Auburn minus 7.5.
A decisive win for Auburn.
Yep.
Okay.
Yet another one.
Auburn is extra
South Carolina
special, powerful down
40
there.
40 points. 40 points.
They are tough.
As for the next pick, Willie, go ahead.
All right. I am going to go to Memorial Gym. I am going to say the setting is Memorial Gym Sunday afternoon. Vanderbilt women, big win last night at Texas A&M in the clutch, came from behind in the final minutes. Big two sort of bubble teams, kind of last teams in kind of thing. They're fighting to get in. They've got a shot at the Lady Vols on Sunday at Memorial Gym. I'm going to say Commodores find a way to win in that game.
Okay.
They took them to the wire. They took them to the wire in Knoxville earlier this season. Final 2 minutes, Lady Vols pushed away. I think they can do it. I think they can beat them.
coming off a physical game against South Carolina.
Yes. And I'm going to say for the Vandy boys, that let's just take, we're about to hand off the baton to Andrew Allegretta for the opener. I'm going to say the Doors over 1.5 home runs on opening day.
I love
Although
that
today's
one.
probably not the best day to hit the ball deep. Probably a
I
little
don't know.
chilly, just a little chilly.
Nah, the bats are going to be just ding, ding. You hear all
Somebody's,
that.
Bats are going to be
let's just
flying.
hope somebody's jacked up. But I'm sure FAU's probably got like a 25-year-old pitcher who's transferred 4 times, who's really good. You know, that's what happens sometimes. You're like, oh, who's FAU? I guarantee you, South Florida, they got some players.
They've got some players.
They're going to be good
in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go with a few here. The Predators, they will score at least 2 goals, and Philip Forsberg will have 1 of those goals.
I like that.
All right.
We need more than 2, man. We
I know. I said they will score at least 2.
Are you going to
And Philip-
venture to
Do I
say
hear
that they
3?
beat the Blues?
Oh, I might
it.
not go that
They
far.
need it.
They need it. Yes,
They
they do
need it.
need it. But nah, that's not. Okay.
D-Base is like, that's a little bit
Yeah,
too
let's
rich
go
for
a
my
little bit,
blood.
a little bit too.
Yeah,
too
no
much.
NBA stuff? No
I
All-Star?
am. I'm going.
Sorry.
I'm going. I got it now.
Where is the All-Star game this year?
Indy.
Indy.
Yep. So the All-Star game, the 3-point contest between Steph and Sabrina. I got Steph winning. The 3-point contest between those two is going to be a hell of a battle.
It will be.
But I got Steph. I can't go against the greatest shooter of all time. I hope he don't purposely throw it, just because. It's like but she's going to make him work for it. She's going to make him work for it.
In that same breath, who wins a 3-point contest? Steph Curry or Caitlin Clark?
Ooh, that's different.
I mean-
Because you're talking about 2 of the greatest shooters, the greatest female shooter and the greatest male shooter, and probably the 2 greatest shooters ever.
Yeah.
Man, that would be tough.
That's tough. I might have to put my money on Caitlin.
No, I think if they were to shoot now in that setting, maybe the pressure of that setting,
It's too much for her.
yeah, maybe a little bit too
Still
much.
young.
Yeah, still young. But I got Steph to win this one,
Okay.
but I think it's going to be close. The All-Star game, I think combined, it will be over 250 points combined.
Man,
Damn.
that's
You're talking about 125 apiece, which, I mean,
true.
they don't play defense.
I mean, that feels like that's kind of the average these days in the NBA.
So I think
Remember,
it'll be
like
over
Steph last
250.
year just started pulling up and just chucking them up from half court and making them.
Yeah,
like
so-
it's just like became a
church league
it's a
basketball
showcase.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There you
It's
go.
like those pregame contests where they bring you out the big check
Mm-hmm.
if a student makes a half-court shot.
And
or the
is-
full court putt.
Is there a first timer in the NBA dunk contest this year? I
There's
don't.
2, I believe.
2 first timers?
I think so. I
Okay.
could be wrong.
If there is 2 or 1, I think your first timer will win the dunk contest.
Ooh,
Okay.
All right.
As for myself, I'm going to go with the Vandy boys here. 7 or more strikeouts total in the game. I'm going to piggyback off Willy over 1.5 home runs. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, yeah. I'm going to have Derek Mason to at least try some hash brown casserole over the weekend. I'm taking that to the bank.
Take that to the bank. No, D-Mase
now
can
you
totally
put the pressure on
sabotage
me.
you.
Yeah, I can't sabotage you if I want to. But if there's a opportunity for me to have hash brown casseroles this weekend, I will. Okay,
Robbie
if
Stiller's
there's
going
an
to take you on a
opportunity.
Cracker Barrel date.
you're gonna have like 5 people show up at your door
with
with
hash
the
brown
biggest
casserole.
thing, a biggest plate of hash brown casserole. You're gonna have more hash brown casserole than you even know.
Hey,
Mr.
listen.
Mason,
Possible.
my grandma made this for you.
I don't just eat anybody hash brown casseroles now, okay? If you want to make me hash brown casseroles, I got to be in the kitchen with you to see you make it, all right?
All right, that is going to do it for us today. Vanderbilt pregame is coming up next. College baseball is finally back, and it is good to be back. We will be back Monday at 11 a.m.
Be love and love of your people. Happy weekend and peace.